getting onto that very shortly. Just remember, please, councillors, we are tight for time. Keep your questions as succinct as possible, and we won't be taking any motions during public forum. Just a reminder on that one. So first up, we've got Jim O'Gorman speaking on the fluoride issue. So welcome, Jim. When you're ready, just press the microphone button on the right-hand side.
Okay, that's it. We on? Thank you for the invitation. Mayor Kircher and councillors, I want to address what I call unintended consequences of applying fluoride to our water and thence to our soils. We can't avoid it. If you're going to have water in the houses, it's going to go in your garden and you're going to eat it. The Waitaki region is blessed with some of the highest productive soils in the world, and I mean the world, and that fertility is under threat from our agricultural practices. 2,4,5-T, DDT, DDE, dioxin, dieldrin, PCPs, we were told by our community that that was safe. And now we know they're not. And the jury is still out on glyphosate. The addition of fluoride is to introduce yet another toxin into the microbiology of the soil. While scientists can assure us that the levels are safe for human consumption, there is no mention of the effect on the bacteria and the fungi, which are essential for healthy soil. Scientists do agree that fluoride in amounts any excess to that background traces damages an enzyme that fungi and bacteria depend on for their growth. Also, while we can be assured that fluoride alone added to our water will not materially affect the soil, it is the addition of fluoride to the cocktail of existing contaminants in the soil that is the issue. And it is for me. It will be for you later on. From a personal perspective, I can no longer offer my produce to the chef at Government House for the table for visiting dignitaries, as I can no longer guarantee the integrity of the produce. Similarly, I draw your attention to the geogastronomical requirements of the Geopark organisation. Food standards in Europe are rather different from ours. They demand food of a higher biological standard than we in New Zealand. There is a set of criteria for food producers to meet, which very few in the Waitaki District can. Until now, it has been my pleasure to be asked to supply produce for the Geopark table. Unfortunately, I'll no longer be able to do so, as I can no longer guarantee the integrity of the product. That's the end of my presentation, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to hand it over now to Cheryl. There's some notes of what I said for council.
Thank you. Just leave them there and we'll check around. Thank you very much. Cheryl Black, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing us again, councillors. Last Wednesday, the US government's National Toxicology Report finalised its 8-year review of studies from countries from all over the world. The overall conclusion is that fluoride is a neurotoxin equivalent or worse in danger to lead. It is dose dependent, and the levels we have in the water will inevitably be harming some people in our community when they're combined with our increasing dietary exposures. Countries began to remove lead from petrol and paint in 1971. Our government stalled another 24 years. Are you going to sit by and let them take another 24 years to stop fluoridation in Waitaki and knowingly harm another generation of children? We can avoid the risks and take the safer and more effective approach, dental hygiene and wise food choices. Yesterday, Tauranga City Council unanimously voted to not proceed with water fluoridation until after the judicial review court process is completed. They found the courage and the conscience to do what's right and say no to government. In the unlikely event that they're threatened with prosecution, they'll reconsider as a council. But the Director General has already admitted that she's not looking at enforcement action. She can't bring legal proceedings against councils because she still has not done her Bill of Rights analysis. And where is the Ministry of Health in all of this? This Official Information Act response from last week states that they do not plan to attend any public meetings about community water fluoridation. They will not provide signage for pregnant women and formula feeding mothers about community water fluoridation, nor will they provide pharmacological information. How can they force a medical treatment now known to be a neurotoxin at doses being consumed here with no dose control, no informed consent, and then refuse to front up to communities? Council, you must push back. Be bold and stand with Tauranga against this madness. We want to stop fluoridation, however, we recognise it as a process. Directions. Here are suggested motions.
Cheryl, the time is up that you were allocated. So can you please draw it to a close?
I just have it's one sentence. It's very similar to those that Tauranga passed. If it is costly to decommission and recommission the system, could you lower the dose to the most minimal level possible, 0.1 parts per million, or preferably less? And in line with that, we suggest that you move the motion that I've handed around, along with any other motions that you see fit to reduce fluoride harms in the community.
Thank you for that. We now have Mr. Andy Denham. Councillor.
Is it possible to ask questions of the two already presented to us?
They were allocated 5 minutes and it took about 7 minutes, so I've allowed extra time to be doing it. As I said at the start, we've got a full agenda. Feel free to have a sidebar with Ms. Black if you wish to.
No, I had a question from Mr. O'Gorman. That's fine.
Or either or. Mr. Denham, welcome. Feel free to sit if you wish, or stand if you prefer. Yep, let's go.
I've got a couple of exhibits here. They belong to the council, but I'll return them to their rightful place. Good morning, council. My name is Andy Denham and I live and farm at 1473 Torrey Peak Road, Palmerston. I'm here to talk about rural roads and in particular Torrey Peak Road. I've lived in the Stoneburn area on and off since 1989. Up until approximately 2009, Whitestone Roading did the work on East Otago rural roads. Raider driver John Meathers had a 6-week beat and would tell the truck drivers where to put the gravel, and that gravel was AP40 line chip from the Dumbag Limeworks, a system that worked really well. All rural roads are okay when they are dry. This day and age, when they get wet and in winter, they can be lethal, especially in a 2-wheel drive vehicle. And to think the previous government wanted to take 4-wheel drives off us. Our rural roads aren't gravel roads any longer, they are dirt roads. That's because of the lack of gravel that's been put on over the recent years. Since 2009, 2010, South Roads put in low quotes and got the contracts to maintain rural roads in East Otago. And ever since then, we have had poor road maintenance. The gravel used in that period under Waitaki Council instruction was sharp gravel from behind the cemetery in Palmerston, used only once because it gave everyone flat tyres. They also used $2 a tonne soft river gravel that turned into dust in no time at all. It's a waste of time. Over the last 14 years, I've lost count of the number of trucks we have towed from our property. Those are trucks and trailers with stock on board, trucks bringing in bailage, and trucks taking wool away. We have used our own tractor, a neighbour's 200 horsepower tractor, and a bulk spreader from the local transport to tow trucks. And quite frankly, I've had enough and have decided to charge the council for the 4 trucks we have had to tow out in the last 6 months. I forgot the account. I'll send it through at late day. I complained last time we towed a truck out, which was a month ago, and one of your roading engineers said that there was going to be $17,000 spent on Torrey Peak Road in the near future. So recently, under Waitaki Council instruction, Whitestone Roading proceeded to put on a clay-based gravel on the road. I have 2 samples here, one of the clay-based material used. That's it there, it's quite fertile, it's even got roots growing through it. The job took a few days, and before they finished, we had some rain. The second sample is of mud that has come in on my private vehicle onto my concrete driveway after driving home. I bet there isn't one person in this room that would tolerate a mud deposit on their driveway or in their garage. A couple of, that's that on there, it's quite soft. A couple of days after the job was completed, the road got inspected and 3 signs went up. At the start of the road, the sign was of a vehicle in skid marks informing a greasy road ahead, and the other 2 signs with explanation marks. I presume that meant drive with caution. Why would you have to put up those signs when you have just repaired the road? In most cases with roading in East Otago, the council seem to be doing everything except the right thing. Cheap is not necessarily better. Do the job once and do it right. The best gravel in New Zealand is right on our back door, and that's Dumback Lime Chip. I see the Ramrock Road from the Nenthorn Valley towards Waitaki is Dumback Lime Chip, put there recently, I believe, because a truck and trailer went off the road. I tend to agree with the Prime Minister's words to councils recently, along the lines of spending cautiously. Here are some examples of my opinion of squandered money. There didn't need to be $17,000 of crap gravel spent on Torrey Peak Road recently. Just a few loads of Dumback line chip in the right places, and I could have told the truckies where to spread them. Spraying the sides of the roads, huge cost, and only to see the weeds pop up, all the weeds under the sun pop up. Consequently, spraying needs to be done twice yearly. I've been told the spraying was initially done to reclaim the road by grading the outside of the road to the centre, which in my opinion would replenish the dirt roads with dirt. What was the cost of these culvert market pits? Were they ever trialled before they were purchased? Because when they were first put in, especially on our exposed road, they went flap in a nor'wester and broke off. A waste of money. Incidentally, none of these culverts where these pegs were put have ever been cleaned out since they were put in. Council has just spent $100,000 plus revamping, I understand, revamping a bridge across the Waitaki River on Anges Road. Why I ask you all, is it because of a big new forestry block at the end of the road, which an overseas concern recently developed for carbon credits? Those trees will never be logged, and if they are, it won't be for 50 years, and that's because the land that it's on was the poorest farm in East Otago. Why fix the bridge now? Palmerston and especially Oamaru get huge support from the rural community, and I feel it's only fair that it works both ways. As far as I'm concerned, all I want is a safe gravel road. I don't mean to be rude with some of these comments, but just want to put my point of view across. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andy. appreciate that feedback and, yeah. I think it's helpful. Our roading subcommittee chair is, lives somewhere nearby, with you, where you are. I think there are you raised some questions that, we'll seek some answers from our roading team just to understand what is happening and, why different products are used and so forth. But, I think it's been helpful for you to give us some of those thoughts. We do have a minute left of the allocated time for Mr. Dean. Are there any questions? Thank you very much for taking the time to come and see us, and we'll see how we go on that one. Thank you. Thank you, Gary. Next we have Mr. Ray Henderson, who wishes to speak on standing orders. Welcome, Ray. Councillor Henderson, almost.
Yeah, working on it. Good morning all. Thank you for allowing me to speak at this public forum. The public forum, a chance for members of the public to engage with elected members in a democratic manner, raise any issues that they have concerns with, ably just demonstrated today by the people that are here. Every 3 years, an incoming council will review its standing orders, which the public forum is set out in. The rules for a public forum are set out in standing orders. They will either roll over the current standing orders or they'll tweak them slightly. The current standing orders, as available online, were ratified at the 28th of February last year, and they basically are meant to stand for 3 years. Recently, I had intended to speak at the public forum at the 30th of July meeting, Friday evening, with the intention of registering or sometime over the weekend for the meeting on Tuesday, to find out a notice saying that the public forum registrations closed at noon Friday, sort of retrospective. And I thought, well, that's a bit odd. What's going on there? And I find out that the public forum from now on will close at 12 on Friday. That's not what's in the current standing rules, standing orders. And I'm wondering how it could change without input from either the mayor or the council who ratified the standing orders that are there now. So I'm wondering what lines were crossed to actually change the rules in standing orders. And also another problem is that by having the registrations close at noon on Friday, quite often, in fact, too often, the agenda isn't even complete by Friday. It's meant to be available on Thursday to the elected members. But I find even today, as at 3 o'clock this morning, there's an addendum with 7 items in it that had still not arrived for today's meeting. So it's very hard to sort of work on if you're going to speak on something that's relevant to the committee meeting, to actually have that information at your fingertips, because it's just not there. So I'm worried about how democracy is being eroded and how things can change without the proper people authorising it. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Deputy Mayor Haldane.
Thank you through the chair. Thank you for your for coming this morning, Mr. Henderson. I can take responsibility for that because I chaired the meeting that day. I'm also mindful that we had a huge list of people that needed to speak, so we had to kind of put a cap on it. So acknowledging your coming to speak at the public forum today, you are aware that we have a huge workload and a big agenda that we need to discuss today. So we do need to helpfully prioritise where possible. So happy to take that on the chin, but at the end of the day, we do have to prioritise the time. There was about half an hour that was set down for the public forum, and we provided the opportunity for the representatives of those people that had requested to speak. So I think that's all I need to say on that matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
To answer that, I can understand on the situation where you may have had a number of people registered for that public forum. Well, in advance, you knew what's coming in, so you closed it off on that Friday. But this is a rule that's now in place from now on. It's closing every Friday, regardless of that. That's what's been advertised on the council website. Also, in the end, there was only 4 speakers for the 30th as well, whereas there's sort of an allowance for 6 speaking 5 minutes each over a half-hour period. So it does seem to be that the opportunity for people to speak was lost. Democracy denied.
Thanks, Ray. I think we take on board what you've said. It's been an operational decision to have a close off time. It was an operational decision to have registrations for public forum. We used to take people, whoever turned up, as a way of planning our days better. Registrations were introduced. I certainly want to make sure that we are giving people every opportunity to give their comments and so forth in a way that they wish to. We don't stick with standing orders, which generally is that public forums are used to speak on topics on the agenda for that day. It's we've used it more broadly than that because it's a good opportunity for people to contribute their thoughts. So I think we need to have a discussion around what are the standards that we want to have as the governance team to make sure that we allow our community to discuss things with us in this particular forum as well as any other forum.
If I address quickly the reference you made to speaking on things related to the meeting for the day, in the current standing orders on the council's website, which is all that the members of the public can rely on, says that members of the public can speak at the public forum on any matter of their choice.
Yeah.
It does not have to relate to the current meeting.
So yeah. Sorry, what I mean is it used to say that it had to be on the topics on the agenda. So it is our practice to allow speakers on whatever topics they wish, and with some minor exceptions along the way. Councillor Hopkins, did you have something?
Oh, I think the question's been answered. What I took from the Deputy Mayor was that a decision will be made on a single standalone one meeting only basis. What Mr. Henderson is saying is that one-off decision appears now to have been implemented as an ongoing future decision. If that is the case, then I think we need to actually review that, and essentially standing orders are ours, and if we want to change them back to what they were, then we can and should.
Thank you for agreeing with me. Right, there's nothing else. Thanks very much, Ray. Good to see you and appreciate you taking the time to come here. Right, next we have Jane Smith and Kate McGregor speaking on the overlay mapping petition. So welcome, and we're allocated 5 minutes for this, so when you're ready, go for it.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today to our petition opposing property overlays in the Waitaki Draft District Plan. Firstly, to introduce myself, my name is Kate McGregor. I'm a proud farmer in the Dapara district and an environmental consultant working with a number of farmers in the region. I speak to you today on behalf of the 221 signatories of the petition, of which 205 are residents in the Waitaki district. The number of signatories on the petition, continued feedback to councillors and council staff, ongoing ratepayer attendance at council and subcommittee meetings continues to show council the level of concern from ratepayers both towards this draft plan process and more specifically the mapping overlays. In the last 2 draft plan subcommittee meetings, it has been raised on multiple occasions that councillors do not have the authority to make changes to mapping overlays, which have been carried out by landscape architects who are considered the experts. There is no reason, however, that councillors cannot seek justification, clarity and evidence that supports the extent and boundaries of the overlays and the impacts that they will have on ratepayers. I'd like now to refer to some key parts of the Resource Management Act, and I'll pass around the relevant sections that I'll be referring to. For councillors to be able to make an informed decision on notifying the plan, a Section 32 evaluation would be required. Specifically, Schedule 32 1A, B and C evaluations, or parts of, must already have been completed for the objectives, policies and rules to have been developed for the draft plan. There's no other way that we could have arrived at the draft rules that are proposed. I wonder, has this been provided to councillors? Has this section only been provided to councillors as yet? Section 2C requires an assessment of the risk of acting or not acting if there is uncertain or insufficient information about the subject matters of the provisions. There have been multiple concerns raised through the consultation phase regarding the accuracy of the mapping overlays when carrying out everyday activities on farm. There is also concern regarding the justification and evidence to support these overlays. Is this enough to support insufficient information? Section 73 requires a district council to amend its district plan if it does not give effect to a regional policy statement. The Otago Regional Council is currently holding hearings regarding their proposed regional policy statement, with outcomes potentially affecting policies and rules in the Waitaki District draft plan. Should this be the case, there would be a requirement for the Waitaki District Council to amend the plan, triggering the submission process again on the affected rules, and this comes at an additional cost to ratepayers. Should the Environment Court be engaged, Section 85(3)(b) refers to policies and rules that lead to making any land incapable of reasonable use or places an unfair and unreasonable burden on any persons who has interest in the land. Working with ratepayers to ensure accuracy of overlays would remove the likelihood of this imposition. Section 86(b) states that rules take immediate effect once a plan is notified if the rule protects areas of significant Indigenous vegetation, protects areas of significant habitats of Indigenous fauna, protects historic heritage. This would mean on notification that rules relating to significant natural areas would be in effect immediately. There's been little information provided regarding the rules that would take immediate effect at the subcommittee meetings. As ratepayers, we're asking the council to delay the notification of the draft plan to align with intended changes in national legislation. So I'll close today with the same statement as last time I spoke. We've lost sight of the overall goal, which is to protect those truly significant features that we have in the Waitaki district. The best way to do this is to work with us as landowners, both rural and urban, in a meaningful and productive engagement process.
Thank you, Kate. Good morning, mayors, councillors and staff. Mayor, councillor and staff. To introduce myself, my name is Jane Smith and I'm a fourth generation sheep and beef farmer and environmentalist farming in the hills of Five Forks, west of Oamaru. I wish to speak to concerns that have been raised by myself and fellow ratepayers around the Section 6 RMA land classifications. I note that I personally do not have any of these classifications on my own property. However, I have a strong set of reasons for being involved in standing up for the property rights of others, with my major reason being that I wish to see the Waitaki district here thrive in every facet possible, be it economically, socially, culturally and environmentally. Just as the byline underneath your Waitaki District Council logo says, growing strong communities. I'm here today to stand up for landowners who continue to have their livelihoods threatened, with examples of potential land value losses of circa 30% due to the proposed land classifications. I sit here today for those who have been ignored or pushed aside by lack of consultation, and for those that are quite frankly scared and intimidated by some of your planning and compliance staff, some of whom attempted to use their voice originally as landowners, but then were punished further with larger proposed areas of Section 6 classifications of their land after questioning the process or the proposed outcome. I stand here for their future, their mental health and their future prospects as farmers and Waitaki District Council contributors. I'm sad to say that we live in a council district where the opinions of outside contracted landscape architects and lobby groups appear to have had a higher standing than the property owners themselves. I reference our petition entitled Opposing Property Overlays in the Waitaki District Draft Plan, which arose following concerns raised by your ratepayers, including an unclear non-ground truth process with lack of site-specific identification and justification for overlays, lack of transparency, equality, and lack of proper process in communicating and consultation with landowners. A lack of meaningful engagement with landowners, including landowner requests for further consultation on a number of occasions, including site visits, being refused by Waitaki District Council planning staff. So for staff to stand in these previous meetings and state to council that the majority of landowners are happy with the process and the proposed outcome is misleading at best. The absence, as Kate has mentioned, of an RMA Section 32 analysis of the economic impact to the wider Waitaki District Council. A gross overreach by the Waitaki District Council with these proposed areas across private property rights, including family homes, and concerns around security and safety. Unfortunately, when our petition was written online, we were not aware of the specific standing orders of the Waitaki District Council, which includes a word limit of 150 words. We also committed the crime of being polite enough to write a covering letter, which again we apologise greatly for. Following advice from Local Government New Zealand, we asked that the petition be accepted by Council on an informal basis. We hope that the words of concern listed by your ratepayers when signing this petition are far more important than writing 186 too many words is. We genuinely thought that we were doing the right thing by explaining our concerns to Council and to those that were signing the petition, something that we had tried to do in earnest over the past few years, and something that has been marred by refusal by Council to release public meeting minutes, refusal to release GIS mapping details, poor quality access to online mapping, and unclear lines of communication during what I would call a haphazard consultation period. To be clear, we support genuine protection of genuine areas, and as an environmentalist, and I believe the majority of farmers are, that is what we should all be aiming for genuine reasons. We ask that the notification of the draft district plan is delayed, even by way of delaying specific chapters in order to identify what is genuinely significant on each title. We ask for genuine engagement. This will save your council, as mentioned by Kate, your ratepayers, your affected property owners, many millions of dollars. And I refer to the recent Grey District Council case, who realised their overreach after the plan was notified, and they submitted against their own plan. In summary, we ask that the council informally adopt our petition. Section 6 classifications within the RMA were developed with the original intent of identifying truly unique, outstanding areas, not vast tracts of land without rhyme, reason or rationale. I note that no councillor or council should ever consider moving a draft district plan to notified stage without citing and assessing that full Section 32 analysis. Ironically, this will need to be extrapolated out even further in terms of cost if this mapping is not carried out in collaboration with landowners. I also refer councillors to correspondence outlining legal advice recently received by and given to Mr. Franz Slack on 20th of August 2024 around the lack of legality of mapping areas such as SASMs on a general basis without clear specific definition and clear definition of the significance of these areas. So again, on behalf of the petition signatories, I implore you to accept our petition albeit on an informal basis, but accept our wider concerns with the formality that they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We do not have time for questions, I'm afraid. We're just a wee bit over. We've taken on board what you've said though, and I think you realise we are stuck in the middle in some respects with this. We are not seeking to overreach. We're trying to comply with the legislation. It is very common for councils to submit on their own district plans when they go out, and it is my full expectation that we will be directing staff to submit on our own one if the plan is published and or notified, and if there are ongoing changes to government policy. Soon the government sort out what the changes will be, the better for all of us. Look forward to that, and thank you very much for your considered submission. Next and last, we have Mr. Franz Schlack. Welcome, Franz. Floor is yours.
Good morning, councillors, Mayor Kircher, Mr. Palmley, council staff, everybody here. My name is Franz Slack. I live in the Wainakaroa River, just out of Herbert, and I represent 7 landowners, my neighbours, in a certain cafe in Hemden, which I shall not be my name. I do apologise, I don't have any handouts for you, because I received my notification I could talk to you this morning at 8:01, and even worse, that's before I finished my first cup of coffee. So I'm afraid you will have to do with my presentation here. However, I'm certain that you have received, maybe you have not taken a lot of notice of it, but many emails in regards to the draft district plan already. The Wahi Tupuna or the SESM overlays over our properties that have been applied by experts, and they have been applied in a blanket way. Experts that take the center line of rivers or streams within the Waitaki district area and then simply apply a 20 or 30 or in our case 50-meter wide blanket overlay over our properties, in my professional experience, does not comply being an expert in anything. In the draft plan review subcommittee, a lot of talk is made about these so-called experts. And therefore, the experts have determined the boundaries of the overlays, various overlays in the draft district plan. And what we can gather from all the discussions, the members are not allowed to change any of these boundaries because they are not experts. Now, I am a survey professional, and I can handle the GIS data on which the maps that are currently in front of the subcommittee for review, I can handle that type of data. I use some of that data that was provided to me by council officers in 2011, and I have actually carried out a very simple analysis of the data that any GIS professional can do. And in that simple analysis, I indicated 4,700, well over 4,700 buildings or constructions within this SESM overlay that is proposed in the draft plan. And I question, as in, how can these buildings be considered a site significant to Maori? In our personal case, because of the blanket applied overlay, things are getting hot here, Mr. Palmley, are they? How can our house being significant to Maori in such an application? Now, I think we all need to consider the whole of the draft district plan and the chapters that are related to Wahi Tupuna or SESM's overlays. It's not only the objectives and the rules in there. There is this major chapter on Manu Whenua, where many lines are actually made that relate to the operations of Wahi Tupuna and what is actually expected to be entitled for the Rananga Menas or the Manu Whenua to be entitled to. And when you start to read that, then people are getting very concerned, and we are very concerned. Now, as I said, I received some overlay GIS data from council in 2011 and 2012. And what we did when we first got Mr. Palmley's notification in the mail on an A4 chart or a map, we actually got together as a group of 7 people and said, okay, we understand this. We understand that this culture, Maori culture, has to be protected. My God, who doesn't like a good haka? I do, and I'm not from this country. But I sit up and watch for it and wait for it. So we got together and I used this overlay to say, okay, we understand this culture has to be protected, but let's draw it to a point where everybody's happy, that Maori can be happy and we can be happy. So I redrew the map, I put it into a PDF, printed it out, sent council officers the actual GIS data. This is what we propose. And the reply from council officers was, this is exactly what we're looking for. Thank you very much. And we will ensure to pass this on to the GIS staff for implementation in the draft plan.
Excuse me, sorry, Sue, we're out of time, but Sue, can you wrap up? Thanks.
I will wrap up. So this was, you can imagine how disappointed we were that in the draft plan, this was not actually implemented. Now, I have requested the GIS data from council because now we are in a position where the onus has been placed on the landowners to actually prove that the so-called expert have got it wrong. All right. That data is being denied to me. I am requesting council to direct council officers to provide the data, the tools, if you like, to the landowners that they can take on this task, being the real experts of properties, and demonstrate that these experts can have it wrong if they overlays over their property, and that all should be done before notification of this plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And we certainly take on board what you've said today and what you've said, the same things you've said in the past. We are challenged with some of the legal status of all the situation, and we need to find ways of working around that. But certainly the blanket imposition of layers is it's not acceptable. We do need to have some understanding of the reasoning behind any overlays and
Or justification.
yes. So thank you very much for that. Okay, councillors, that ends the public session. So we'll just shoot back to the start. I didn't ask for any apologies earlier. I think we have everyone present. Councillor Blackler has joined us online. Is there any apologies for anyone needing to leave early, etc.? Okay. Any declarations of interest? Okay, moving, if we can now go through to agenda item 6.1, the formal receipt of a response to the petition on stop water fluoridation, which is, well, that's page 56. And invite Mr. Palmley to make any comments on this.
Thank you. I'll be brief, as this is a matter that's been before council a number of times before, and remind council that the Health Fluoridation Drinking Water Amendment Act 2021 came into effect in December 2021 and gave the Director General of Health the legal authority to direct local authorities to add or not to add fluoride to the drinking water. The decision does not sit with this council. The statutory direction has been given and reconfirmed as a legal requirement. And if council does not agree with this legal direction, it would be necessary to either seek directly from the Director General of Health an exemption from or retraction of this legal direction, which we have done previously, and that has been directed. The direction has been reinforced by the Director General, or to find another legal avenue to challenge the direction. We note that several legal challenges have come in already, and none of them to date has overturned that direction. There have been flaws found in terms of the decision making, but no court has overturned the direction. As noted above, council has previously sought that extension, and that has been declined. So the council is required to comply with the law, and the law states that the Director General can direct this council and every council in this country to fluoridate its water to mandatory levels. And those levels are set by the Director General of Health, not by ourselves, and those are the levels we're dosing to at this stage.
Okay. Councillor Percival.
Yeah, Alex, the decision by Tauranga Council yesterday, does that have some influence on how you think now? It obviously doesn't with what you just said, but there was a rejection of it by that council and an alternate procedure put into place. You're aware of that, of course?
Yes, I'm aware of that. I'm not aware of exactly what advice they received, but if I was at Tauranga City Council, I'd have been advising them exactly the same as what I've advised you today in terms of our legal position, that this council isn't able to make a decision on fluoridation. Power was given by Parliament to the Director General of Health.
Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, I accept, Mr. Palmer, that you haven't had a particularly lengthy period of time to analyse the Tauranga decision. But if I read it correctly, the initial part of it actually is a request to the Director General of Health to do two things, i.e. refrain from fluoridating until the judicial review process is completed, and also provide an assurance that that council would not be subject to financial penalty. So in that context, they are simply asking the Director General of Health to do certain things. They are then saying that if the Director General of Health comes back and says, naff off, as I suspect this rather arrogant official probably will, they're going to review the matter. Would you accept that that's a fair assessment of of the position they've taken?
Yeah, from my understanding, and yes, I haven't read the full report, Darren. We haven't got access to the minutes. That's
given that. Would you accept that we would also be entitled to make the same request of the Director General of Health, perhaps expecting the same rather offhand and uncooperative response? But it is within our purview to do that, is it not?
I can't comment on what the response will be. That's for the Director General of Health and what tone it has. But yeah, we could make a similar request. I think the differences between ourselves and Tauranga is that their deadline for fluoridation is November. I think it's the end of November, whereas we are already dosing. So ours was the end of June deadline set.
Councillor Ryan.
Thank you. Have we done any investigation into how much it would cost to provide a non-fluoridated water source in Oamaru, or has there been any investigation into providing such a source?
So the Waters team have assessed that, and it runs into the hundreds of thousands of dollars to be able to do that, because you'd have to bypass the current treatment plant and then add in additional treatment to meet water standards. Because of the way the dosing system is set up. So you'd effectively have to put in a new treatment plant, a new supply from the current to be able to do that. There's an alternative that has also been investigated, which is to provide a non-fluoride drinking supply off the lower Waitaki scheme, which would obviously mean travelling some distance out of town for those people based in Oamaru. But again, that's running in the tens of thousands of dollars to be able to do that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Holding.
Just on the paper that we've been given, 1C asking to reduce the level of 0.1 ppm, which I see there's under some new sciences. What is our level there?
So the level that we dose to is prescribed by the Director General of Health, which is 0.8.
Councillor Hopkins.
I wonder if you'd be willing to consider a motion at this stage.
Well, see whether there are any other questions at the moment. First of all, I'll see if there is anyone wish to move the recommendation we do have in front of us. Deputy Mayor Haley. Move that. Seeing that, Councillor Thompson. So let's discuss this one and see where we get to with that, being the best advice that we've got in front of us.
So the
Hopkins.
You've moved the movement second to have moved 1 through 6, is that correct?
Yes. Okay. Anyone wish to speak to that? Councillor Hopkins?
Yes, I do. I think it is important for us to say to the critics and those who are legitimately, in my view, concerned, that it would be helpful if they would accept that 5 here is actually accurate. I would ask those who want us to discontinue fluoridating that if we did that unilaterally, it would be a breach of a legal statutory direction, and we have made the point that there would be a potential fine of $10,000 a day, which other councils have sought to indemnify themselves by seeking assurances from the Director General of Health. But the other more fundamental point that I think I would ask the community to consider and accept is that we are lawmakers, And as lawmakers, we can't be lawbreakers. We can't cherry pick the laws we like and say we'll obey those, follow those, or comply with those, but flout those we don't. So I would actually ask the community in this regard to accept that we to some extent are as captive of a decision autocratically and undemocratically made in Wellington as they are.
Any other speakers? Put the motion, those in favour say aye. Those against? That's carried. Thank you very much. I'd like us to move to the next item 6.2, petition on the overlays.
Indicate that I want to move an alternative motion, and you said you would accept that after you'd considered the recommendation in front of us.
Oh, sorry, an additional, yeah.
Sorry.
When you said alternative.
Sorry.
And the one was passed, I took it that the alternative wasn't valid. But if you have an additional one.
Having heard this morning and been advised of the Tauranga decision, I would move that the Waitaki District Council requests of the Director General of Health a commitment to stop fluoridation of Waitaki's water supply at the directed level until such time as the judicial review process on this matter is completed, and an assurance that the Waitaki District Council will not be subject to financial penalty should it cease to fluoridate the water at the directed level until such time as the judicial review process is completed and the consequences understood. I move.
Thank you. We have a seconder, Councillor Percival. So you're taking it from the wording that we've been given this morning?
Well, I'm taking it from the wording of the presentation this morning, but I'm also taking it essentially verbatim from the Tauranga decision. And I would repeat what I said before when asking Mr. Palmer clarification. They have simply asked the Director General to consider something. And I see no reason why we should not signal on behalf of concerned members of our community that we would also like the Director General to consider those things. I am not optimistic about how the Director General will respond. I think the official information response to the request from a Hastings doctor that they're not going to engage with public meetings, that they're not going to actually do anything other than put information on the website, is, in my view, a classic example of either official arrogance or official cowardice, or both. The debate about fluoride has been persistent and the opposition has been consistent. And in my view, the Ministry of Health and the Director General has a duty not only to complete the Bill of Rights analysis and to defer any decision until that's done, but they also need to engage in a post-COVID world with the people in the community who are genuinely concerned about the matter, whether those concerns or whether the basis of those concerns is contestable or not. And they have not and will not do so, and I regard that as disgraceful. So I can see no reason why we shouldn't actually do what Tauranga has done, say, please engage and please consider the response and of communities and the concerns that community members have. So I invite members of this council to support the resolution.
Can I just get a clarification, because I'm not hear exactly what you've read out, but did you read the words that were presented this morning?
No, I didn't. They were slightly amended. My wording was that the Waitaki District Council requests of the Director General of Health a commitment to stop fluoridation, etc., and under B2, an assurance that the Waitaki District Council will not be subject. So there were minor wording changes.
No, thank you. Deputy Mayor Levy.
I'm just going to speak against, that amended or the additional motion. I think in terms of where we stand, we do need to support the national guidelines that are supportive of public health. This is to address social determinants, and we should be supportive of it because there's additional protection for those in the community that don't have access to other support. And I'm mindful that those that signed that petition, they're not a representative of the wider community. There are parts of our community that are actually fully supportive of the fluoridation of water. So I'm standing against that last additional motion, because there are members of our community and also community providers out there that are happy to support it, and that is the messaging that should be available. There is a level of equity that needs to be considered here in terms of supporting health promotion opportunities for people that do need that extra support. So that's where I stand.
Councillor Holding.
Just in response to Hannah's comments there, in matters of consideration here for the council, it says the petitions are a smaller representative group compared to much wider Waitaki community. Where is that data? Just because I couldn't figure that out. Is that going off fold?
Sorry, whereabouts is that wording?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that would be in reference to the number of people who have signed the petition. So that group versus the amount of people who live in the district. That's what that's referencing.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I'm going to put it, those in favour of the additional motion, say aye.
Aye.
Against? No. Yes, to you, panel. So it's carried. Good. Thank you. Councillor Ryan?
Am I able to move an additional motion?
Sure.
I'd just like recommendation that council ask staff to present the investigated options to provide a non-fluoridated water supply for those who choose it to elected members for a decision.
So it says again.
Ask staff to present the investigated options to provide a non-fluoridated water supply for those who choose it to elected members for a decision.
So. Thank you, Councillor Hopkins. Any discussion on that?
Sorry, I'm going to go against this because this is going to take a lot more resource and time that we don't actually have. We have a number of, we have a huge workload and we're asking staff to undertake even more. So I'm just going to, that's where I stand.
Thank you. Councillor Ryan.
Personally, I'm not opposed to fluoride in water. I'm not a scientist, so I'm not qualified to give an opinion on the science of it either way. But I'm not here to vote on matters based on my personal opinion. I'm here to represent my community. And this is an issue that we've had significant engagement on. Reading through the petition, I see the names of many people I know and respect. I respect the direction given by the government. And I acknowledge the issues that we have around dental health in this district, but I don't think this is the only answer. And I feel uncomfortable not exploring those solutions to those who have concerns. Mr. Palmley today told us that those options have been investigated. And so I guess I'm just simply asking to see them.
Thank you. I asked early on when soon after we were given the direction, you know, what is the possibility of a separate tap, and it was explained to me how difficult that would be given where the dosing of fluoride is added into the system, which is amongst the treatment part of things of the water. So it was very difficult just to take a tap from in between to make that happen. I'm okay with, you know, seeing what has been done on the options around that, but I do agree with the Deputy Mayor. We already have a massive workload, and we know the cost will be either significant or very significant, depending on which options we might go for if we were to proceed with a separate tap, and on the basis, on the balance of things. Given that the time that was spent here, and possibly slightly biased because of some of the accusations, some of the threats of arrest, some of the threats of extermination, etc. I'm the sooner we're through this, the better, as far as I'm concerned. I won't be voting in favour of this particular one. Any other speakers? Put it then, those opposed say aye.
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 Against? Be that carried. Any other additional amendments? We will go now to the petition on the overlays. On page 80. And sorry, I'm just getting sorted here. Just hand over to Mr. Parnley.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not going to, pass comments on in terms of the content of the petition received. This is a procedural matter initially for you to consider. Council has standing orders that set out the rules of the game and how things are meant to operate. That is done to ensure that we can manage the business of the organisation. And in relation to petitions, it's to ensure that we have a level of consistency and clarity as to what's being asked in the petition, so that it's clear to council what it is to consider. This petition was originally brought to the governance advisor some weeks ago, who provided advice in terms of how the petition would need to be amended to meet standing orders. But it is presented to you today in its original form. It doesn't meet standing orders, and therefore, as I'm not able to waive standing orders, my recommendation had to be that you refuse the petition. But they are your standing orders to waive, as it were. So there is a choice for you there initially as to whether you wish to accept it or not. But to be able to accept it, you need to waive standing orders, which would require a majority of 75% of the council to be able to do that initially, to be able to accept it. Then secondly, if you did choose to accept it, there is then the matter that this is being considered by the DPR committee and subsequently council, who directed myself to write to all those concerned about matters in the district plan, including the overlays as they affect the rural community, to engage in the submissions process once the district plan is notified. So the matter really before you is to consider whether you accept the petition or not, which would be agreeing to waive standing orders, and then whether you accept it, considering that it goes against what the DPR subcommittee and council has already agreed. Should you then agree to accept on both those accounts, we would then propose that the report come back to a future council meeting on matters raised. Happy to answer any questions.
Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, look, I just have one, I have one question, and also on page 155 of our agenda, our own document relating to standing orders, fourth paragraph under 17.1 petitions, there's a typo that needs to be corrected. The current reading is if petitions consistent of online and printed components. Obviously the word consistent should be consist. But the question I have is...
Hang on, we're going to change that.
Well, I know, but the standing orders need to be corrected for future consideration. But the question I have is actually which document is the petition? There are two documents in front of us. There's one on page 87 and one on page 103. And each of them appears to have attracted signatures. So is the petition one or the other or both? And I'm not being frivolous here, it's a serious question.
I think your question gets to the point of matter, which is the petition. That's one of the issues that needs to be addressed.
Okay, right. So, right, okay.
So reading everything, page 103 is the petition. And the other
I
was,
took it at 87.
and 87 is the covering letter.
Right,
It's
okay.
reading everything. This is, as Mr. Palmley's pointed out, it gets to the issue, which is, it's not clear what the petition is and so forth, and the people didn't have enough information in front of them. It would be difficult to see which is the petition, what are they actually signing?
The difficulty is, of course, that the comments made by the people who have signed the petition are actually duplicated twice, once after page 87 and then repeated again after page 103. So did become a bit problematic, but that's fine if we presuppose that 87 is the covering letter and 103 is a petition. That's fine. It still leaves us with the option to decline or receive if we choose.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This petition is not new. It's been in the wind for some time because initially there was an expression or a desire to present it to the subcommittee. Procedurally, the subcommittee couldn't receive a petition, so it's come to council. I believe that the concerns expressed by the ratepayers have been canvassed on numerous occasions in subcommittee discussions. However, I don't feel comfortable in us dismissing the petition, and I would certainly be advocating that we receive the petition, but that will require us to adjust our standing orders to do that.
There's a couple of terms, and one's receive, one's accept, and I think we can have to go through this again, but it has been presented, and that is anyone's right to do. Whether it's accepted or not is in the legal sense, that is the challenge here. So I did have I felt exactly the same. People have gone to a lot of trouble to do this. They're expressing their thoughts in a valid way, just in not quite the right format as proposed, and which is there intentionally, so it eliminates confusion about what's actually being said and what's meant. And it was my intention that if we declined to receive the petition, that we would receive the document as an indication of the concerned residents' hold on the issue of overlays in the council's district plan review. So first foreshadow that as a potential motion. Councillor Hopkins.
Just a clarification, I'm heartened to hear your comments and those of the chair of the Deputy District Plan Review Subcommittee, because I share the same view. My understanding in law is that if we receive a petition, we simply receive it. We do. At that point, it remains up to us how we deal with it and what response we provide to those who have forwarded the petition. And I personally would have thought that one of the things that we could do is receive it and refer it to the DPSC for advice to council. But I just want to be clear. My understanding is receiving does not mean endorsing or accepting. It simply means, yes, we'll take this piece of paper and have a look at it. And I would have thought that's entirely appropriate, and that's an option that we could exercise now, if we so chose.
Thank you. Pass to the governance advisor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In response to Councillor Hopkins, I think that is absolutely correct. You do have the legal response to receive it and do nothing else with it, or you could refer it to the DPRSC for consideration, but you must not accept it on that basis.
Then I move that the Waitaki District Council resolves to receive the petition imposing property overlays in the Waitaki Draft District Plan 2022 as submitted by petition organiser Mrs. Jan Wheeler on 24 July 2024 and refers it to the District Plan Review Subcommittee for consideration.
Seconded. If anyone wish to speak? Councillor Thompson.
Just a procedural question, Mr. Mayor, because we are deviating from standing orders, do we not have to deal with that first?
Which standing order have we deviated from either?
With the consent of the seconder, I'd happily amend it to move that Waitaki District Council resolves to waive standing orders and receive the petition.
Yeah, I just cannot see in here any reference to receiving or accepting. And I don't know that we're not following standing orders. If we are receiving and we're deliberately differentiating that from accepting. I did ask to see the legal advice that had been gained, but I haven't been hasn't been provided to me, so I could get a better understanding.
So for clarity, the legal advice was provided to you as the legal advice which was provided to you in the notes. So the legal advice has been provided.
Okay, it speaks in first person, then third person, and it's a bit difficult to know some of to understand where it came from because it did look. But anyway, it's okay. So it would have been helpful to add more context to that, and to just in our case, it's the standing orders are not clear around the receiving and accepting aspect that I can see here.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I suggest you're entitled to rule on this matter, and you, as chair of the meeting, I believe you'd be entitled at this point to say that you think the addition of the words waive standing orders might be prudent, or that you see no need for that, and the resolution as moved and seconded can stand. I think it's within your purview and power as chair.
Thank you, Mr. Farley.
My advice would be that just surety, but having agreement to waive the standing orders would avoid any complications.
Okay, so you've Councillor Thompson, you've moved that we waive standing orders. We have seconded for that. Councillor McCone. Go straight to the vote. Those in favour, say aye. And against, it's carried. Councillor Hopkins, you've got your motion. So we'll reactivate that. We do receive the petition and refer it to the subcommittee. Any further discussion on that? Okay, I will put that. Those in favour say aye. And against. I will move a further one, which isn't to do with the petition, but it is to do with their standing orders, is that we seek reports from the Chief Executive on giving greater clarity around the acceptance or receipt of petitions. Awesome. Thank you very much, Councillor Hopkins. Any discussion, question? Put it, those in favour say aye. And against, that's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you for the ones who have been involved in that petition, and we know a lot more about petitions now. So that's good. Okay, councillors, we're going to go back to this time. Yep, go back to. Sorry, I've just got to find things. I don't have the list. Sorry. 5.1. Right. So page 15. Recommendations around the Puketapu Track project scope. Councillor Thompson, do you have any comments on this one?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Apart from complimenting Mr. Van der Speck on his report, the community board, of course, started their involvement with considerably more money with the Better Off funding and the changes that have been made. We accept that. I certainly, in conversations with members of the Puketapu Trust, have been exceedingly blunt in that the desire to create this track must be driven from and funded from within the community. We cannot simply pick up the funding of this. The initial money should allow for the access issues to be resolved. The trust has received $57,000, I believe, from the regional council for plant restoration. I think this is a good example of where localism can work. It's a desire of the local community to enhance the track up Puketapu, make it more accessible, and also allow the enhancement and restoration of the reserve that we currently own.
Okay, do we have any officer comments? Mr. Bailey, did you want to? Okay, Mr. Van der Speck.
Sorry, I missed the first part of what Councillor Thompson referred to as far as this project is concerned. Essentially, what is being presented to you is some terms of reference for endorsement, which would set out the relationship, I guess, of how we would work with community to implement this project. The recommendation also includes a recommendation on the representatives from council and the Waihemo Community Board to that project board, and also seeks approval for us to embark on stage one, which essentially is the acquisition of the legal access to the Puketapu block using the Better Off funding which council has allocated to this project.
Thank you, Eric. Do we have any questions, Councillor Hopkins?
Yeah, true. On page 17, under background, second paragraph talks about the fact that the council has indicated 100,000 in Better Off funding and up to $400,000 loan funding. I'm pretty sure that Eric's report talks about a $500,000 loan fund from us. So I'm seeking to clarify which of those figures is correct. And will that be amended, or will one or other of them be amended? And the other question I have is just for us as a council, are we happy with the composition of the Puketapu Track Project Board? We've got 2 from the Community Board, 2 from the community and 2 from the Runaka. And at this stage, we're the only group that appears to be providing money, and yet we would potentially be able to be outvoted by 4-2. So I'm just wondering if there's any concern about the composition of the trust board amongst other members of the council here today.
Councillor Thompson.
Again, I reiterate the messaging that I have provided in these conversations with the Puketapu Trust. We are unlikely to be a willing funder of this track. That the trust board needs to seek external funding and drive the funding of this as a community initiative.
Okay. Are you happy to move the recommendations, Councillor?
I certainly am.
Okay, I'll just seek a seconder. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Cowles. Thank you. Mr. Van der Speck?
Just in response to the comments regarding the representation, the terms of reference do not give authority for the project board to make decisions on council's behalf. The terms of reference refer to the relationship to work in collaboration with each other. Each party is responsible for its own decisions.
Thank you. Appreciate that extra info. Okay. Any further discussion? Put it, those in favour say aye.
Aye.
And against, that is carried. Now move to the recommendation from the Harbour Area Subcommittee on whatever page that's on. So page 33, and Mr. Van Speek is another one you're working on. Do you want to make any comments as an introduction?
Thank you, Mayor Kircher. As you'll be aware, we've developed a plan for improvements to the farmers market area and the parking areas that surround the Scots Brewery. This overall plan was approved by council in February of this year. Essentially, this overall plan identifies the future development areas and the overall layout. As we're aware, back in February, we were unlikely to be able to afford the full scope of the works that we have planned for. We have been to the market, and the market has indicated the full cost of the works, including a stage 2 development of the farmers market area, would be around 1.5 million. Our current available funds are 735,000, which comprises of 400,000 council loan funded and 335,000 from the Tourism Infrastructure Fund. So essentially, if we wish to proceed with this project, we will need to prioritise the scope, and we do require some additional funds. The officer's recommendation is that if we were to continue, we would focus on the area essentially between Scots Brewing and Tyne Street, and this would enable us to complete the farmers market urban park area, which council has been keen to see developed for a number of years, and we would have to forego the other car parking areas to the east of Scots and the new exit proposed to Waterfront Road. However, this would obviously leave the entire area unfinished for the foreseeable future.
Thank you. Just ask Councillor Holding as chair for the subcommittee, whether you have any comments you wish to add.
I just think, just one thing here that I hadn't picked up during the Harbour Committee was the background on number 3, just approves the scope of change, additional landscaping on the corner. Is it what page am I referred to have an idea about that?
Unsure of the page off the top of my head, just flicking through, but that is something that we are looking at in conjunction with a private benefactor to essentially improve that corner. We're looking to do that within the existing project budget with their support.
Just on that, Eric, it's looking like it's taking out maybe 3 or 4 car parks. Is that about right? That is correct. We haven't completed the detailed design for that area yet. We'd be working, as I say, with the benefactor and with Creo, who are likely to be issued the contract for the farmers market area. So we'll be looking to work in collaboration to do a consistent design, basically from the urban park area out to that corner of Tyne and Wansbeck. And I assume whatever's designed there will make sure that visibility for the roads and so on and entering into that roundabout are all absolutely clear. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor McCone?
Just firstly, has this been budgeted for in the annual plan? First question. And secondly, I presume it's all on the west side of the existing Scots Brewery. Why do we have 2 sections there in respect that we're actually cutting down car parking that's already available there? Why don't we just make the whole thing a car parking beautified?
With regard to your first question, the funds were allocated a couple of years ago and they've been carried forward subsequently. As far as the different areas, we have indicated on the overall layout and plan future areas for development in the harbour area. The idea being that this could potentially be used, I guess, to raise funds for future works of councils. And $335,000 comes from the TIF fund as well, which was there are a couple of cutbacks, and that is definitely one of the reason why the east side isn't being dealt to. And it's personally, I'm reluctant about that sort of thing because it's
when will we get back to that? But we do need to find some savings and so on, and that's one of them. The other is that we won't be doing everything that we expected to do with the park, so the urban park itself. There will need to be a second stage, and it's always challenging to do half a project and then get back to it. Other things suddenly take priority, so it's we're just going to have to make sure that we do keep an eye on that, and does fit back into the priority system at some point in time. Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Kitcher. I have two questions. The first is relating to the information about the project budget on page 35. There's a reference to work that is needed to be completed by 2025, February 2025, which is quite soon, under the TIF criteria. Does that mean that we have to spend $335,000 from that fund before February? And if so, are our officers confident that we can do that? That's question number one.
So yes, you are correct. The terms of our funding from TIF is that we complete the works by February 2025. We have been in conversation with our preferred contractor who will be doing the car park works. They have indicated a time frame of about 3 months, and they are ready to go as soon as we award the contract. We'll also be working on the urban park area, and the subject to the detailed design, we do believe we can complete those works also within that time frame.
Thank you. My second question, as we go back to the resolutions, it's not the resolutions. You talked about the fact that CREO were likely to be awarded the design contract. Then I have, through the chair of the Harbour Committee, expressed concern, or subcommittee, I've expressed concern about the design that was shown on page 47 of this document. I think it looks too genteel, and I personally would prefer to see elements picked up, Currail Bridge, the rail bridge, steampunk playground, and things like that contributing. So my question ultimately is, by what process from now on will that design be finally considered and approved? Will it go back to the Harbour Subcommittee, or will a final design proposal be seen by us before it's signed off?
We will be forming a design team, both with CREO and some of the stakeholders that are involved. That's likely to involve the Harbour Area Committee representatives. As far as bringing it back to council, I hadn't planned to do so. That's something I guess you could consider. However, timeliness, as you just indicated, is somewhat of essence.
Thank you. Councillor Percival.
Yeah, Eric, I missed your answer to Jim regarding, do we have to match the 335K in the same value, like dollar for dollar? And if that is the case, or whatever, why aren't we limiting our work to what we can afford under that condition?
Yes, we do need to match it. As far as limiting our work, essentially this paper is giving you an option to limit the amount of work we undertake. To limit it further, I guess in essence we'd be talking about limiting it by about another 100,000, just off the cuff. You would have to choose where you cut that funding from. I dare say your option is to forego the footpath, which runs along Tyne Street. Otherwise, you would need to cut back some of your funding allocation towards the marketplace area.
Councillor Cohn.
So under the proposal that we've got in front of us, do you have a rough estimate figure of the total cost of what is proposed for the west side?
So, are you referring to the marketplace area, or what is proposed essentially for the parking and
east
urban park?
The west side, the one that comes out to Tyne Street on that side.
So essentially this paper is advising the cost of it is or 735 plus the additional funding. Sorry, just coming with a total. Yeah, so it'd be circa 880,000.
Okay. Just to get things moving because we are really running out of time. I'll move for the recommendations. Do we have a second? Councillor Holding. Any discussion? Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, I suppose my initial thought about this was this might be one of the matters that was focus of attention at the local government conference, you know, the concern about nice to have, but in this particular instance, we have a harbour endowment fund that can only be used for improvements in the harbour. And as I understand it, essentially what we're voting on today is the 335,000 TIF funding plus 145.6 from that fund, which has 1.2 million in it at the moment. And I certainly believe that if done well and designed in a sympathetic way that relates to the rest of the industrial and rather sort of robust character of the harbour, it will work well. I would commend to councillors to take particular attention of the mural that's shown, or the suggested mural on the wall of the Scots building on page 54. And I think that proposal has implications for other possible other buildings that we may be considering. And I think it also, that design on that wall could be really significant nationally. I mean, it might be an opportunity for us to acknowledge Total Estate and contribution to Oamaru, North Otago and Waitaki to the foundation of the frozen meats trade I
need to draw you out today. Sorry, Councillor Hopkins, we really are running out of time. We're supposed to be finishing in about the whole meeting in about 5 minutes. So
I was about to stop when you said shut up, so I'm shutting up.
I was more polite than that, but we have to be mindful of the time, please. Councillor McCain and then Councillor Blackman.
I would just say I won't be supporting this, and I think we have far more use for our funds than this at the minute. While I think we need to do it, not right now, it's time to do it.
Thank you. Councillor Blackman.
I'll be voting against today for the same reasons as in the Harbour Area Subcommittee on the 13th of August, which that we had concerns expressed from a subject matter expert around certain aspects of the project and how the cost sat within that. Voting for this signals a shift away from our previous resolution to not exceed budgeted external borrowing from the LGFA for the year when we were dealing with the carryovers previously, which this will result in a further $145,600 from to be borrowed from the LGFA.
Yeah, just speaking in favour of the motion, this has been a project which has been going on for pretty much a decade. The discussions that have been had with the farmers market people have been ongoing. There has been a lot of work going into the master plan. This is delivering on the master plan. This is not coming up with something different. This has been in long-term plans for a number of years. And substantially the money is coming from the government itself and from the Harbour Endowment Fund, which is part of the requirements there. It has to be spent in the harbour. It is a good investment in our community and will deliver well on that. The Harbour Endowment Fund is in credit. It's just that the money is loaned out to investments in the community. So there is an impact on the debt because we will have to borrow the money to repay the loan that has been taken out of the Harbour Endowment Fund, but the money essentially is there. We know now that we are almost certain to get a major reduction in the cost of project reclaim with the waste levy waiver. So that was debt that was planned to that we would have, that we won't be needing to have. So we still will be well within the debt limit that we were forecasting. It's not a reason to spend the money, but all those other things are good reasons to get this particular project over the line and actually get some action happening here. Do we have any other speakers? I'm going to put it, those in favour, please say aye. Those against?
No.
That's carried, thank you. Right, moving on to item 6.3. There's 4 voted against. Okay, we're now moving on to, I think it's Waitaki toilets, is it? Right. Page 157. And Eric, another one of yours.
Thank you, Mayor Kircher. So Waitaki District Council supported an application to the Tourism Infrastructure Fund for toilets at Waitaki Boulders. This is part of planned improvements that Department of Conservation are carrying out at the site. The DOC have already improved the entranceway and have installed some interpretation panels and are contributing $30,000 towards toilets. We've also secured $100,000 from the Tourism Infrastructure Fund, but we are $30,000 short of the required $160,000 to install a flushing version of the vault toilets we have at All Day Bay and Kartiki Strait. Te Runaka of Wairaki prefer that we install flushing toilets, as these are more consistent with the significance of the site. We've asked the Department of Conservation and Te Runaka of Wairaki if they're able to make an additional contribution. Unfortunately, neither of them are in position to do so.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Hopkins?
No, that's not a question.
Any questions? Councillor McCone? Councillor McCone?
So it says have contributed. So what is the total cost? Is the total cost, as we read it, if we add the 30, the total cost will be 160,000 in total, and they're asking for 30,000 from us. Is that what I'm reading?
That is correct.
Actually, I do have a question.
Councillor Hopkins.
Eric, I think it might be to you. Am I correct in assuming that the road to the lighthouse just south of Wairaki is managed by 3 agencies, DOC, Runaka and ourselves, and is currently in the state that it's in, i.e. relatively underdeveloped, because we couldn't get a 3-way agreement as to funding to upgrade it. The original proposal was that, well, am I correct in assuming the original proposal was that Runaka, the department and ourselves would share the cost, and those 2 other parties refused to do so. Is that correct?
I'm afraid I haven't been party to any of those sort of conversations regarding that road, so I can't answer your question, I'm afraid.
It's not relevant.
I think it is.
We've got what we've got in front of us. And again, in order to move things forward, I'm going to move the council approves $30,000 loan funding towards the capital cost of a public toilet at Waitaki Boulders, and that council requests the mayor to write to the Minister of Conservation requesting that contribution, $30,000 to cover that. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ryan, thank you. Councillor Percival, you should speak on that.
The ongoing servicing and maintenance of those toilets, if they do go ahead, who does that come? Does that come back to the Waitaki District Council? And I just can't figure out why on earth we are putting the Waitaki ratepayers' money into a building on DOC land And I hope we have other examples that we have, but I mean, I don't understand this one. It is a very important part of the tourist route. And I just don't understand why Doc aren't doing the whole damn thing. And I don't know if anyone around here has been down there lately, but they've made a very fancy entrance or exit entrance onto the beach, which is all very nice. But why couldn't some of that money gone into a toilet, which would be far more important? I just don't agree. I should not be supporting this.
Thank you, Councillor McCone.
Again, to Councillor Percival, it's on page 158, and it says that the people that have requested it have not got back with their additional funding requirement. To me, that's not our problem, that is their problem, and I don't see why we should be funding it at all.
Okay, any other speakers? Councillor Hopkins?
Yeah, okay, it's only $30,000, but there's a principle here in my view. Principle is that another party has requested this and said that it's important to them. That party has a very considerable commercial interest in the site and will benefit from the installation of these toilets along with members of the general public. Proposition that other parties don't or are unable to contribute has not been tested, and in my view, the comparison between the upgrade of the road to the lighthouse that I mentioned earlier is relevant. We decided in the end that we were not prepared to fund that in full unless the other two parties came to the party with their share. And in this instance, if there's $30,000 to be additionally required, in my view, at the very least, it should be 10, 10 and 10. In other words, 10 from the Orunaka, 10 from DOC and 10 from us. I cannot and will not support in the current climate where we are being asked to actually focus on must-haves rather than nice-to-haves. I can't support this and won't vote for it.
Just give the Prime Minister a quick call and just check whether public toilets are on the must-haves, because we don't know, to be quite honest.
It's not toilets, it's an upgrade to the toilets that's been requested by a third party that won't contribute to the cost.
Right, any other speakers? Councillor, sorry. Mr. Van der Speek.
Yeah, just in response to the comments before that we hadn't heard back from Te Rūnanga or Maraaki, subsequent to the drafting of this paper, they did respond and advise they weren't in a position to make a contribution.
Thank you. I do just need to address an allegation that Councillor Hopkins you made when saying that a property owner will benefit from it. It's hard to understand how, if you are talking about Maraaki Boulders Cafe, which has its own toilets, how it will benefit from this toilet located in a car park that actually bypasses the cafe. So just in the interest of fairness, you've made that allegation. So is there something that you want to say around that?
Look, it's a contestable position. I accept the point that the benefit may be dilute. I still would argue that there may be potentially some benefit. If I overstated that, I'm happy to ameliorate the comments accordingly. But I stand by the notion that any business in that area is likely to benefit to some extent from the provision of upgraded public facilities.
Okay. Any other speakers? Councillor Holding.
Just on the environmental considerations, Eric, what's the current arrangement and consent for that? What's changing there?
Sorry, not quite following the question. There is no toilet there currently. So any waste is currently done in the bushes. As far as any environmental impact, this would be a vault toilet. So similar to other places where we're unable to install discharge fields, such as All Day Bay and Kartiki Strait, because of the proximity to waterways, the waste would be removed from the site.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to oppose this on a principled stand that DOC are asking us to pick up the bill when DOC don't pay any rates in the Waitaki District. And once again, the ratepayers are going to carry the can.
Thank you. Right, I'm going to put it, those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against?
No.
That's lost. Right, moving on to the Labour Weekend liquor ban for Locklear, page 160. This is a repeat of last year and the year before and the year before that. So I think we should be fairly well versed in this one. I know you're jumping enthusiastically into the seat there, Lindsay, but I'm prepared to move the recommendation, and Councillor Cowell's just seconding that. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Hyde? Councillor Percival, thank you.
You ever have the odd beer?
That's just a question to her.
Lynn?
You're not obliged to.
It's a personal question of a staff member. Roll it out of order. Any discussion? I'll put it. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those against, it's carried. Thank you very much, Lindsay. Brilliant. If only all reports were that good.
Congratulations on that superb report.
Okay, right. 6.5, ratification of council submission on the draft Canterbury Regional Policy Statement. Is this one going to be as fast? Someone like to move that we ratify that statement. It's been sent, so it is people had opportunity to contribute to it earlier. Someone happy to move that we ratify. Deputy Mayor Halali, Councillor Thompson. Any questions for Mr. Campbell?
Yes, so look, I'm just, David, page 178, that we're making suggested changes. One of them under the Waitaki River being treated as a single hydrological unit, where suggested changes clarify how Environment Canterbury envisages this. I guess what specifically are we going to say when we submit on the matter to them? Are you aware of, I mean, that what seems to me to be asking in those instances is that we're asking them to reword something without suggestion from us. Is that the position we're taking or not?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Hopkins. This is around, I guess, the fact the Waitaki River often is split for sort of management purposes. So it's saying when they're proposing future management options, how they're going to do that, whether it's still split, maybe upper, lower, or one unit in that sense. So it still gives them options, just saying clarify when they do put it in there as a freshwater management unit, be clear what it is or isn't covering.
So we will be submitting verbally?
No.
Right. But
we can add some more wording on that aspect.
Any other questions? Going to put it, those in favour say aye. Aye. And against, that's carried. And the 6.6 amendment to standing orders, allowing members to join, who join remotely to count as part of a quorum. No, we haven't got that report.
No, sorry, there was insufficient time after I've been dealing with all the position work and all my other work last week, so that will have to come to the September meeting.
Move we get public excluded, Mayor Kitchen.
Thank you. Yeah, just note that the minutes before we go into public excluded, there are a growing number of minutes, and there's a real concern because we do not know what some of the detail is around what was actually resolved in particular meetings, and it is not fair or reasonable, I think, to expect councillors or staff or the community to need to go online and watch the recording of those. So just raised it again as an issue that's been raised by councillors before, and just ask that we know there's a lot going on with transformation, but this is one of the key aspects of us holding staff to account, but also just to understand what's happened in prior number of months. So if you wish to respond, Mr. Bartley.
Yeah, I'll refer to, my answer I gave at the last meeting, it's not an acceptable position. We're looking to remedy it. We're in a recruitment process as part of our transformation at the moment. There's lots of moving parts, but we are under-resourced in this area. I would also highlight that this particular month we've had additional things to deal with in this area that weren't originally planned. So there are extra meetings in July. 3 hearings as well that had to be dealt with. And the petitions as well took up extra time. So whilst it's not a situation we want, it's one that we're struggling to remedy in the immediate, but we are working on that to make sure that we get back on top of the minutes and ensure that we have the full resource within this area going forward.
Thank you. Right, Councillor Hopkins, you moved. We go into public excluded, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against, those carried. We'll have a brief pause while we get things switched off. But thank you very much, everyone who's taken part in the meeting today, who's been online, and those who've been in the chamber.